go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'll call a roll call. McKee here, Lanterman here, Bottom present, Barrington here, Nichols also here. Like to stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On to agenda approval. I know we have a couple modifications / moving around a couple items.
Yes, Mayor. First, I want to acknowledge that I do believe that this is the safest piece of real estate in Corcoran right now. We have a couple things. First, item 4C is combined with item 6Y, and we want to move that to 7-1. Item 6KK has been added. Item 7D has been revised. And item 9A is moved to item 7.2, moved up on the agenda. And finally, item 12 has been removed. Those are all the changes from staff.
Okay. And did that cover the one I briefly discussed with you?
Yes.
I just got lost on the new one, the new copy here, so.
So to recap, 4B combined with 4Y becomes 6-1, 6KK has been added, 7D is revised, 9A is moved to 7.2, and 12 is removed.
Yep, perfect.
Did I hear something on 6Y?
Yes, it's been moved so that it's combined with the presentation.
Okay.
And it's going to be delivered following consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second. Okay, and let's call them out for a minute's sake. So we got Nichols and Barrington.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Then we have some presentations. Jay's gonna help us get started here.
So if I could please invite Mark up for Mark Reinking. Has worked for Public Works as a crew leader, and we are celebrating his 5-year anniversary with the city of Corcoran. He's been a wonderful addition to the team. His quiet leadership style has made him an excellent crew leader. His attention to detail and exceptional care that he brings to each project make him an asset to the city of Corcoran. He's a hard worker, easygoing demeanor, and always brings a smile to his colleagues' face. Now you got to come all the way up, sir.
And as is tradition, I did pull up some fun facts for 5 years, which isn't as crazy as some that we've done. But in 2019, with the final season of Game of Thrones that aired, Avengers Endgame was released in theaters on its way to becoming the highest grossing movie of all time with $2.79 billion. The Jonas Brothers, I'm sure something that you're really care about, returned to music. Queen Elizabeth II became the first British monarch to post on Instagram. There was the celebrity college admission scandal. And I can't read my own. Oh, the first picture of a black hole was taken in space. So there you go. That's what happens when you start.
And so next up, Mayor, we invite Joe Zerwas up to the podium. Joe Zerwas Jr. started his police career in 1994, working for the Dayton and Osseo Police Departments. As Rogers Police Department transitioned to 24-hour coverage in 2000, Joe was the second full-time officer hired in their department. In 2004, Corcoran Police transitioned to 24-hour coverage and needed part-time officers to help fill in. Chief Shuddy knew who to call to help the police department cover 24 hours a day. Joe Zerwas was the first Corcoran part-time officer hired in 2004. He has worked just over 7,000 hours for Corcoran in 20 years. Many of these hours are in addition to working his full-time job at the Rogers Police Department until his retirement there in 2015. He comes from a law enforcement family. His father is a retired chief of police. A brother is a retired state trooper. Another brother is a retired Woodbury detective. His sister is a retired Lakes area police officer. Joe's son is a sergeant with Washington County Sheriff's Office. As you can see, service runs in Joe's family. Joe's always been willing to step up and help, work extra hours, come in on his off time. His passion was traffic enforcement. We will miss Joe's buckle up notes on the whiteboards around the office. In October, Joe will be retiring to spend time with his wife and grandkids at his lake place in Wisconsin, and he'll be wintering in Arizona. We want to thank his wife Annie and family for allowing Joe to work here in Corcoran for the last 20 years. And Joe, thanks for your smile. It's contagious. Your laughter, your dedicated service to this community for over 20 years. Congratulations on your well-deserved final retirement. We would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Annie. Annie, could you please wave your hand? Yeah. So understanding how hard it is sometimes to communicate, I just want to share something that Annie wrote. To my dear husband, Joe, we're so proud of you and all of your dedication helping others for the past 33 years. You've worked so hard so that we could retire young and enjoy life together. We raised 3 beautiful children, Joey, Johnny, and Jody, who now have beautiful families of their own. You sacrificed countless birthdays, holidays, family gatherings, and special events to do a job you were always meant to do. That is what all your brothers and your sister behind the badge do. To all of the new officers' spouses, please be patient with your loved ones as they'll have to miss a lot of outings that you may find that you'll be attending by yourself. I remember countless times trying to wait patiently for Joe to come home, but the job had other plans. I remember our kids being upset because their dad had to miss their birthdays or another special event. This comes with the demanding job that our police officers do every day. I would have to stop and reflect that I would rather be home waiting than be the person who just experienced the worst tragedy of their life. I'd rather be home waiting while Joe took an intoxicated driver off the roads before they hurt themselves or someone else. You see, not only do officers sacrifice, but families behind the officers do too. Joe, 45 years of marriage and over 33 years of dedicated service to the badge and the communities you've served, I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you. Our family's so proud of you, and God bless all of your brothers and sisters behind the badge. Love, Annie.
I will do just 2 or 3 of my fun facts for 2001. It's hard to beat how well said that was. But in 2004, just to put everyone in the right frame of mind for when he started, Facebook and Gmail both launched for the first time. The series finale of Frasier aired. Shrek 2 was the highest grossing film of the year, and a gallon of gas was $1.85. It's been a while.
Joe, remember fire, the wheel? Well done.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Joe, just real quick too, if we had a building the size of Target Center, the number of people that wanted to be here tonight, would have been here. We're restricted. I hope you know the number of people you affected in our city and around. All the drive-bys, drive-throughs and everything. You did it very well. Good job.
We get to, it's fun for us on council. We get packets delivered to us once every 2 weeks. Which is ending. That's why I'm not running for council again. But Joe and I spent I really love when people stop by and deliver the packets. And it was always cool when you got back from Arizona because I got to reconnect with you and I will miss that. So thank you for that.
Come visit. Don't stay down there all the time. It gets hot. You have to come back and visit.
You know where we live. Good.
All right.
Thank you guys. Next, we'll give
Give 'em
everyone
a minute.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
This next part is just as cool.
Takes longer though.
3 people turn their head back and
Got a couple of them to think about it.
No, they didn't think about it.
No, they just kept going.
Oh, I forgot the other one I was gonna say. Britney Spears married her best friend and then got divorced 55 hours later.
Yeah,
Nice,
2004.
yes.
Okay. They're actually pretty quiet.
Oh, they won't be quiet back there.
No, well, hopefully the door's good. I just meant in general, usually moving out's pretty loud. Okay, so we'll move on to open forum. Jay, do we have any cards?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything you'd like to come and talk about that is not on this evening's agenda, please come forward to the microphone, state your name and your address, and then talk to the dais, speak to the council about whatever it is that you'd like to talk about that is not on the agenda. I have received no cards, no emails, no phone calls.
Doesn't look like any takers? That's okay. Then we will move on to a behemoth of a consent agenda. Which consists of items A through double K.
Mayor, could I say something about that really quick? Just for the community to understand. And so we had some technical challenges last year with the video system here that made it difficult to translate minutes, and consequently, staff got significantly behind in minutes. And since Nelisha Williams and Deb Johnson have joined, we also got help from Jeannie. We are caught up with minutes, and that's why this agenda is so huge. So I just want to give a shout out to them.
Good job.
great job.
Nice job.
So yeah, it's A through KK. Does anyone want to pull anything?
I would like to pull item X.
Okay. See how good I can remember all. Jeremy's pulling item X. Anyone else? No? Trying to think of, did I have something? I don't know. Did I do? Okay, if that is it, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through W, Y, and Y through KK.
Didn't we pull Y off and move it?
We did. Thank you. Knew I
That was
screwed up
Z.
somehow. So Z through KK, in addition to A through W.
I will make that motion. Next.
Second, Aaron Kim.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Jeremy? 6X.
So for anybody without a program, 6X is a final plat approval for the last phase of the Tavera development. And I had a couple questions for staff that have been answered. Just want to memorialize that. I had asked questions about whether we were able to decline to approve because of outstanding deliverables on other developments by that same developer, and was informed that we cannot. I also asked about weed control barriers to prevent trails that are part of the development from deteriorating over time. Sounds like those improvements can be added as part of negotiations with the developer going forward. But I wanted to take the opportunity to query staff about progress on trail repairs from this developer that have been ongoing for the last 2 years and have not been completed before I approve.
Okay. Kevin,
Yeah, that they still, up to your point, haven't been completed. They're been told again multiple times this week they need to be completed. They're paving the 15th edition with wear course, and their stated position is that they will do the trail when they do the wear course. So
So it's on the schedule. They've
It's
confirmed
there.
they're gonna do it.
they're saying they're doing it this year. So like I said, they've made a significant progress. The trails is really the one exception. We're on them on the trails. I think this is staff's opinion that it's, their last chance before we have to pursue more aggressive solutions to getting them to complete their works. Maybe an update in a month, or you'll be probably the one to know.
I'll be the first to see it.
Yeah.
Out there all the time. Okay, thank you.
If I could, I think Council Member Nichols raises a good point. Can I ask, what was the reason you were given for not being able to hold a developer accountable for non-deliverables on different projects? Like what, it would seem to me as though if they're not delivering on one, you withhold approval on others until they come into compliance.
I think they conferred with city attorney. I don't know, Jay or Natalie, if you're able to convey the reasoning.
Yeah, so I spoke with the city attorney on it. And trying to find the exact language I sent you, Counselor Nichols, but essentially my conversations with John Thames was that we don't have anything in our current code or development contract that allows us to withhold approval of a final plat that complies with the preliminary plat. We would have to put something in code. My understanding is this was something that was discussed previously several years ago. And what you run into is if you put something in that says you can't approve phase 2 until phase 1 is done, we're never gonna, the stockpiles alone would create an issue with that, because a lot of times there's actually work that's happening that's overlapping between phases. So it would create other second and third order effects that, and we could certainly dive into what that means if that's desired. I don't have all of that fleshed out tonight, but that was my understanding of as to why in the past we decided not to put that kind of language in the code or a development contract. At this point, if we wanted to do that, which I'm not necessarily recommending, if we wanted to do that, we could put it in the development contract theoretically going forward for future phases, but we can't deny this phase because Tavera First isn't done yet. It's because there's nothing in the development contract for Tavera First that says we can do that.
I think one thing
Does it have to be in the contract if they are, I guess, why does the city have to perform under the contract if the developer is not performing under the
So
contract?
there's other ways to, the development contract has other mechanisms to hold the developer accountable. As Kevin was just talking about, if this doesn't happen as was told, we have other mechanisms, but withholding approval of a plat that complies with the preliminary plat, that runs into several problems. So that would be something that we would need to look at legality and logistics too. But as far as holding the developer accountable, we have significant sureties on file that would, that gives us that pull. We, as a city, we haven't really wanted to use those because we would prefer to try to keep it a collaborative working environment and try to work through with the developer rather than using that hammer. But we do have that ability. It's just not through the approval of the final plat.
Yeah, I just think that it's an important part, and I would urge staff to continue looking into ways to hold developers responsible. Why reward them if they're not in compliance? So that's all. Thank you.
Jeremy, did you?
Yeah, I think Councilor Lenterman makes a good point about accountability. And we did talk last year about taking steps to ensure that they would complete their punch list items by the spring. They haven't completed all the punch list items, and I know that there was a lot of back and forth. I think we can improve in our ability to hold them accountable within the policy tools we've made available to ourselves. And I think as we're continuing to see development in the city, we need to get on top of ensuring that our policies are being followed.
I think one of the challenges that we've had is simply a capacity issue. And I'm happy to report that we've been able to make an offer finally to a development superintendent, which is going to increase our capacity, particularly in this area that we're talking about. And so we have, presuming that we secure that person, we are going to have a person dedicated to maintaining these types of relationships and paying attention to these types of issues.
Excellent.
And I would say, Kevin, if you could keep us posted on progress, hopefully it is, like you said, that they said, that it'll be done this coming year. If not, then I think we want to start looking the other.
Yeah, I would say before the end of the year, if it's not done, we will engage you and start the process. To pursue that work.
I would like to remove X from the consent agenda and put it to a vote.
Well, it is removed, so we will have a vote on it. Because Jeremy pulled it, so. I will, is there any other discussion on the item?
On item 7?
Seven,
Six.
six,
X.
Severa 7,
Is it
Final
this,
plat,
if we're
final.
pulling it,
It's already been pulled. It's already.
yeah, no, I know, since we're pulling it, we'll have a discussion about it
That's what I'm asking. for.
later. Oh, you want it now?
Well,
We just
We
had,
just
What
had
are we
it.
gonna vote on? What's the vote then?
the vote would be to approve. Trying to find the actual resolution number. Here, I might not have it on this.
Did you fall asleep?
I must have.
I think you missed a little bit.
I think you're suffering from not having a paper.
No, I just don't, I do remember voting on the consent.
Let's see. Do you have the resolution numbers, Jay? I'm bringing it up right now. Perfect.
2024-106 and 2024-107.
106 and 107. So yeah, beyond passing those,
I just wanna make sure of what I'm voting for.
totally fair. So if there's no further discussion or questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve resolutions 2024-106 and 2024-107.
And what do those say?
Assume one is approving final plat. and the other is final
2024-106 is approval of the final PUD plan. 2024-107 is approving the final plat and development contract.
What if we don't? What if we do vote no?
You would need to provide a reason, first of all. If it was a sufficient reason and then that outcome passed, I think we'd be fine. If it wasn't, I would assume it'd be challenged. And
So if. Okay,
I would like to make a motion to deny 6X. And the reason is the developer is out of compliance in other developments.
so we do have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Motion by Lanterman, seconded by Bottom. Any discussion on that?
What happens if this passes?
Not good. We need a reason why it doesn't comply with the preliminary approval. And there's nothing in our code or development contract that allows for it to say that, but because of the authority, I've already discussed this with things in detail.
What about the lack of weed barrier to prevent the trails from deteriorating? You're gonna negotiate that with them and get them to agree to it and put it in the contract, I think? Can that be a condition?
I'm going to.
So there, we recently updated our standard detail plate for trails along wetlands to include language similar to Three Rivers. So that is now part of our standard detail requirements that are absorbed through this contract. So I personally don't think that's the condition you're looking for.
So it's already in place. That's what I'm hearing.
What's the enforcement mechanism if we deny their application and they're already starting work on said addition?
They haven't started this edition yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, need this.
And, I think Natalie said it would be bad. I think it would be worse for them. And I think that the reward is we'll approve it once they're in compliance.
I don't disagree with, I think the substance of what you're trying to get at. I think procedurally, I don't know if I agree with that this is the right method to do that. I think personally, my more secure method for the city, I think, would be using, if it gets to that point, the money that we have to just take that action itself. And
They have money in an account specifically for us to pay if they don't pay.
Yep.
And that happens when?
So let me just clarify. So it's a letter of credit surety
Yeah,
pledged against the
Yeah.
project, and it significantly covers the amount of the trails, which is they have other things, smaller things, finalizing as-built, reconciling escrow, so it's not the only thing, but
Yeah.
the significant heartburn that I'm aware of is the trails. there are sufficient securities that are pledged against completing that work, that our attorney is confident that we can stand behind it. That, and that's the mechanism to do that. So a contractor or a developer will tell you, their insurance company will tell you they don't want any sureties being pulled against them. That hurts them significantly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the route to go.
What date is the earliest we could do that?
You can direct me to work and bring something back, for the next meeting if you want. We try, as a practice, we try to give them a reasonable opportunity, but I will at your discretion. I think it's gonna get done, but it hasn't gotten done, so I can't guarantee you that.
Can I make a friendly amendment to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or no, I guess he's voting for denial.
Yes.
What I would do is say, I would say,
Maybe let's see what the outcome is of this and then potentially,
okay,
if it doesn't pass, deny, then make a motion.
Okay.
After, I think.
Yeah, we have a motion, we have a second on the table,
Yeah.
and so discussion once concluded, we need to vote on that, and then we'd have to entertain another motion.
Can we, before we vote, can we table this to the next meeting instead of approving or denying it?
I don't know what the timeline is.
We're looking at that.
That's- I'll just talk about what I would, since we're in a pause here. I would like to pass it and at the same time, start the surety bond process of constructing the trail that they've neglected to
We've
construct.
given them enough time. is what
Yeah, I
you're saying.
think that.
Not wait for them to execute, start the process.
I would agree with that, maybe go one step farther and table to the next meeting and consider them both at the same time. So if they
Yeah, because we
haven't
can't approve.
completed it by the next meeting,
Yeah, so because we can't, because Kevin will have to come to us with a surety bond, something in the packet.
right?
So okay, so,
And just to be clear, so it would start with, I would work with the attorney, we'd draft a letter, you'd approve the letter. And it would be in accordance with the contract, so there'd be it would just start that formal process is what.
Yeah.
Mayor and council, if I could we address, this is tangential to the motion that was made. Can we make a vote on the motion that's been made
Yep.
and then have further discussion?
We'll call that right now.
If there's other alternatives.
All those in favor say aye.
Well, you should
Favor of
probably
denial.
restate it,
Okay.
because we're
Restate it.
voting affirmative on a
motion-
negative.
Correct. The motion was to deny resolution 2024-106 and resolution 2024-107. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Nay.
nay. It's 3-2.
well, yeah, I just want to be clear.
Yep.
That my motion to deny is concurrent with. I can vote to deny if my intent is to vote to, vote to, Jeremy's vote of pausing for 2 weeks.
Table.
Tabling.
Yeah, because we still have to have an action
Yes.
on this.
That would be
Yes.
a different motion.
Yep.
No, I know, but that would be the intent, would be vote to deny with the intent to table.
Gotcha. Noted. It'd be.
Instead of doing 2 steps in one motion, we're doing one step and then another.
So
Right,
the motion failed 3-2.
yep, correct.
So I'd like to make a motion to table that.
Well,
to
well,
the
one
next
second.
meeting,
Okay, we have the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
with the intent of,
Nichols.
I guess I'm gonna add. With the intent of Kevin working with our attorney to start the process of, getting money from the surety bond to complete what they should have already done.
Okay, and Jeremy, do you?
I will second.
Okay. Natalie, I'm sorry if you already said it. Do you have the date?
It's November 5th. I'll just note that October 12th. Tender's gone, so I'm concerned about just the planner on record not being present for that meeting. But do you think it's something Kevin Shea will be able to take on? Or do we need to postpone to October?
I honestly think it'll be more something that will need to be worked through with
Alright,
names.
sounds
I agree.
Okay,
So we do have the ability to do that. then.
with the first October meeting.
So that'd be October 10th.
Is that your motion then to
Yes.
table it then? Okay, we have motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
Clarity one more time.
Motion
Table
is to table these
start-
resolutions
Start the process of,
and start the process speaking with Thames
Gotcha.
to draft up a letter to bring back to
Thanks.
council at a subsequent meeting. Do you
I
understand?
understand.
Okay,
So to be clear, we're not approving it, we're tabling it,
correct.
right?
And giving staff guidance.
Okay. I'm good with it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. And then Jay, help me a bit with the
Item 9A.
reshuffling. 9A, okay, perfect. So,
So the North Hennepin Pioneer Society.
and we'll have a public comment opportunity for what is technically new business. If anyone wants to come up now, you can come up separately because you're the, well, yeah. But I don't know. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on it? No, we'll go right into it. So go right ahead.
Me do it. Okay, you have your staff report in front of you that was given out, and I received one too, so I know what you're looking at as well. I'm Bonnie Maui with the North Hampton Pioneer Society. I've met just about all of you. And of course, I came again to you because we're in need of some help to complete the work on the school. As we're speaking tomorrow morning, the bell tower gets put back up on the school. And that is completed.
looks
and
great on the
finished.
trailer right now,
Yeah.
if I may say that.
Tomorrow. But we still have a couple of things that need to be taken care of that we just need help. We can contribute some. We've been receiving donations. We have over 75 members. And this year we made 4,000 at our Summerfest. And so we have been also, we've got about 8,000 that we can add to any kind of work that we have going on, so we're not just depending everything on you, but a big hunk of what we need. Because there's just no way we can come up with $44,000 to do a roof. But, and of course, when we did the roof in 1996, it was only $8,000. So a big change in construction materials and stuff. The only thing I was thinking, how can we do this so that we're not trying to do it all at one time and asking for so much at once, but really we need to start with the chimney first. Because walking on the new roof, do the chimney wouldn't work either. So tomorrow when we have the men up there looking, I'm going to have them check the roof on the inside too, to make sure we have no leaking or any other issues going on. If we can postpone that until 2026, I'm not sure yet. But we definitely need to get moving and get these things finished so that it's secure and airtight and we don't have water damage. So which means then I'm looking at 22,000 for chimney work. I've only had 2 quotes, so I'm gonna keep looking for even better quotes. And I'm sure that there's other ways that we can get it completed without having to spend quite that much money. My husband thinks we're insane, which I think so too, it's a lot of money. And then we'll need to pursue with the roof next after that. So I don't know how we can do this, that it doesn't look so huge the first year, or if we can break it up. But we're just kind of laying it at your feet and see if there's any way you can help us with the gambling accounts.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Man, thank you, Bonnie, and everybody that does this. I'm a huge supporter. I think I asked the question, why don't we just cap the chimney? It needs to stay there for historical preservation and such, I think is what you told me. The shingles need to be cedar shakes. It can't be metal. It can't be anything else. It needs to be that way for everything that happens. So for anybody else, if you're wondering, that's why this has to be this way. So, and my feeling is I would rather get it all done at once. They're up there, they're done. I've had conversations with the thrashing group up in, somebody from that group up in Now Then, where they do actually cut cedar shakes and such and sell them one or give them one at a time out as whatever. I'm trying to help see if we could get them all cut and trimmed, but I haven't talked to you about that, but that's a whole nother thing. But I would rather, in my mind, take care of this all at once. Let's go work in concert with that group and take care of that. And I'm even so generous that I would rather just the amount of money they've raised so far for being something else, general operation, those kind of things, since this is coming out of our charitable gambling and such in the amount that's there, I'd rather take care of this because I think it's something that we haven't done a good job at over the last many years of historical preservation in our community, and I think this is a good step
Yeah.
for us, and that's my thoughts on
What
it.
would that amount be? Do either you know, Bonnie, or?
I think, didn't you told us 70 something,
Yeah, 72,000.
72,000? Yeah.
Something like.
That's what.
So it depends on what the final quotes come in at. And
Yes, if I can get it any cheaper, I get my husband out there working too, so.
so
Anybody else I can
important to note, the current balance is a little over 258,000 in charitable gambling. We currently don't have refined policy in terms of how we're approaching that. Some of the things that have been proposed don't meet statutory requirements. I included that in the packet so that we're aware of what we are allowed to do. And there aren't a lot of opportunities right now in the community that have been coming to us and asking. In fact, this is one of the few organizations. There's been a couple other examples of things. We don't have anyone pressuring us to spend the money. That's important to note as well. And so the timing of this has everything to do with, does it make sense to do the chimney and then wait and come back and do the roof the following year? That might be a phasing thing. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a construction person, so I don't have the means to make a good recommendation on that. But it does make sense that you wouldn't want everyone going across the new shingled roof with wood shingles to put on it. That's counterintuitive. So the timing becomes important. So my recommendation at this point would be probably the most pressing issue is the chimney. And then to come back after we've had a discussion, what does the council want to do with the charitable gambling funds? And then discuss the roof when we've got better bids. Is that fair enough? That would be my recommendation.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, I just want to be clear that this money does not come from the general fund of Corcoran.
Yep.
So, I know the answer to that, but I want it out there in the public sphere. So that makes it a little easier when you have to spend it on certain projects. But, is that school insured?
Yes,
What is it insured for?
it is. Actually, to tell you the truth, it's insured for if it burns down.
Yeah, no, I don't mean the dollar amount.
Oh.
How much is that school worth?
Probably would change
It-
based on the work.
That's what I'm just-
We do not have property taxes on the school because.
Yeah,
It's a school, so we don't have that. We pay 2,700 a year for insurance, and I don't have the exact figure on the top of my head, but it's basically if it burns down, it's to take care of the cleanup. Cause if the school burns down, we are not rebuilding an old school.
I get it.
So if it's gone, it's gone. We've lost the history of the school. We've lost whatever is in the school, which is, we are also saving the history of Corcoran. With photos and with stories and with the rest of it. So it's Corcoran's history is there. And so how can you replace that by saying, we'll rebuild, and it's not gonna happen.
I'm just for my own personal edification. It's hard to, it's expensive.
Very expensive. We have not done really any major work on it. Especially the roofs since 1996. It's due because the shingles the shakes only last so long and they start to curl and rest of them.
It was lost.
So we have not really come to ask for any money until I think it was 2016, when we were going to work at taking care of the wood on the outside of us. Then we started asking, can we have some help? Before that, from 1968 until, or 1968, until 2016 was the first time really the school has come to the city.
Can I
So
just
you're
make a
talking
motion?
1968 to 2016?
I'm gonna make a
Because we were
motion
always
that
turned
we,
down.
I'm gonna make a motion, we grant your project funding.
For the full amount?
Yeah.
The
Second,
70
Mary Kim.
So just to clarify, set the 72,000.
Yeah.
Over
Motion's
2 years or over 1 year?
Makes sense.
I mean, I haven't looked at it, I gotta take their word for it, and it's coming out of a charitable fund that has to be spent, and so I'm less inclined to necessarily care about filtering it through 2 years. They probably can get a better deal if we're doing it all at the same time. I'm just making a motion, it's not, I'm not a builder or, you know. We're gonna be here till 3 in the morning if we.
Fair enough. We did have a motion in a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nice job. I'm glad you worked so hard at that.
All right,
We're excited to see how it turns out.
get those kids in there. Okay. thank
Absolutely.
you.
Great job.
Kind of on the side there, my thinking on maybe creating some policy going forward on that would be to Jay, to maybe meet you and I over the next couple weeks. Discuss a couple possibilities that I've kind of looked into myself. And then maybe you and I could bring something back to council at a future meeting in terms of whether it's a public meeting ordinance. There's not a particular rush on it. We could probably tackle it at one of our regular meetings. That sounds good together. Perfect.
I can look to see if there's any precedents from other communities too. That
Sounds good.
gives us a starting point.
Perfect. Okay, on to my agenda. is kind of-
Item 7.2
Thank you.
is our financial management plan.
Okay,
And Tammy Umbo.
Tammy.
He's gonna bring up the presentation here and he has it up. Good evening, Tammy Umdahl with Northland Security, serving as financial advisor to the city. And I'm going to give an overview in about a dozen slides of what is about a 70-page report of the long-term financial management plan. And for the council knows this, but for everyone, this is a plan that the city has reviewed and updated annually since 2013.
Tammy, can I ask you a
Yeah.
question before you start? Do you do financial advising on the asset side of a city's balance sheet?
So, Northland does not, if you're referring to the accounting of the asset side, your auditor is part of the reporting.
Not accounting, the actual financial advising on what to do with it.
Are you referring to the city's investment? program?
Yeah, the city has, we have like we get a big check once a year and we gotta dole it out over the year, and then we also we have to carry some reserves. But you don't offer advice and counsel on what to do with those reserves.
So, the city does hold account with Northland Securities, that staff would have to speak to it, that you hold accounts with multiple firms with respect.
We
to
do,
your
and under
investment.
guidance from PMA and 4M is how we navigate that currently.
That is correct. So yes, that you do receive advice from PMA. You hold accounts with Northland with respect to those investments, but Northland is not advising the city
Right.
or managing its cash flow. Does
Okay.
that answer your question, Councilmember?
Yeah, basically.
So I have about a dozen slides to go through what is about a 70-some page report. And I want to start with the purpose of this study. So it is to provide a guide for the ongoing financial management. It is not your budget. Your budget is where you make decisions. It is not your financial statements. Financial statements is where your accountant, your CPA firm gives you a review, historical review. This is very forward-looking and it's based upon certain assumptions. Those assumptions will change. They have changed over the years as the city has maintained its plan. Because Corcoran is a growing and a developing community, a large focus of the assumptions is on the timing of the development, when that will occur, what the value of that development will be. That impacts both your taxes, your tax rate, as well as in your enterprise funds, your utility funds, what those fees and charges are. The report includes recommendations based upon certain assumptions, and it includes results, meaning what those potential results would be for the tax rate. We go to the next slide. Study approach, we do look at historical data and current plans, working closely with staff. We make assumptions for expense and revenue. That's what they are, is their assumptions. This is not your budget. Your budget is where you actually make those decisions and vote on it. There are assumptions for capital improvements. You spend time with staff working on your capital improvement plan. The long-term finance plan includes that information. It is a snapshot in time. It's possible even since this report was printed or finalized that things have changed in your CIP. That happens all the time. This is meant to be very forward-looking and macro. And the last one, the impact of growth. Staff works and provides those assumptions given the development plan of growth in the city. If you can go to the next one, Jay. So I'll start with where I'm going to end too, on conclusions and recommendations. Then maintaining those strong fund balances across the funds. The city has a long history of managing your funds and ensuring that you have contingencies and flexibility. As you continue to grow, sometimes maintaining those fund balances becomes more challenging because in some growing communities, you may actually have to levy in order to maintain those. City Corcoran has not had to do that in the past. That will depend on how tight those actual budget to actual are from year to year, as well as other factors. Identify strategy to fund capital. The plan includes strategies to fund capital. Some pay-go, but also bonding. And that bonding has to do with especially the potential facility improvements happening in advance of the full development of the city and the resources to pay for that on a pay-go basis. You simply do not have the cash or the ability or the willingness, I would say, there would be very large tax increases and rate increases that move entirely to pay-go. It is just not financially feasible for the city in the near term. Planning for tax levies and utility fees. Planning for the financial impact of the bill. I believe last year when we went through this, we spent more time talking about, and Kevin in the room, and the idea this includes certain assumptions for capital projects. If the economy slows down and the assumption on housing units development slows down, some of those plans would shift too. So it's not a matter of putting that burden on existing, you're counting on the timing of that development and when those capital improvements will actually occur. And the last one, a very important one, consider the impact of the ever-changing conditions in the economy on the plan. So certainly as the economy may or may not change, impacting or will change, I shouldn't say may or may not, it will change, but depending on how it changes, what those impacts on your development assumptions would be. Jay, if you could go to the next one. The assumptions in the plan currently assumes that approximately 87 acres are platted per year on average between 2024 and 2033. That won't be exactly what happens. Could be less, could be more. 330 residential equivalent units added per year on average during that same time period. And that's on average. Could go faster, could go slower. All of that impacts the financial assumptions. If you go to the next one. So here's a slide that looks at annual spending on capital and the types of projects, and it's projected to vary from year to year. That 2027, that very spike there, if I can grab my word, spike, that includes an estimate, a placeholder for a new municipal facility included in the plan at an estimated $50 million to be financed through issuance of capital improvement bonds. Whether that happens in 27 or moves out will depend on many factors, but for planning purposes, it's assumed to occur in 2027 with some land purchase occurring in 2026. That somewhat distorts the other projects because as you look at water improvements in this is in current year 24, and those you issued bonds for and are implementing and have implemented those projects. Then you have some planned park improvements as well as water, and equipment improvements. But the large one driving what you're seeing there is the municipal facilities assumption. Jay, if you go to the next one. Here you can see the source of funds estimated for the capital improvement plan, with the largest piece being bond proceeds related to the estimated timing for a new municipal facility. There is also some assumption from cash from your existing funds and unspent bond proceeds being spent down in 2024 is what you're seeing there for bonds issued in 23, as well as bond proceeds for some of those other projects as noted. If you go to the next one, Jay. This is switching from looking at total project spending source and use to annual estimated debt service by source of funds to pay back that debt. The largest source of revenue projected over this planning period from 2024 to 2033 is coming from tax levy. And that is driven by the largest project is the municipal facility project. Funded not entirely by tax levy, there is some that would be allocated to the water and sewer funds because they too benefit from that facility, but the majority of it coming from tax levy. Utility revenue is the next largest portion, and a lot of that relates to debt that has already been issued and is being paid back. If you go to the next slide. This is looking specifically at tax levy to pay debt service. And when I say debt service, I mean principal and interest on bonds outstanding. The yellow bar represents existing debt, bonds that are already issued and you are paying back. And you can see that's pretty flat because you structure your repayment of your bonds with relatively level annual payments. The green bar represents new debt and the timing of that. In 2028, that increase relates to bonds that are included and anticipated to be issued in the plan in 2027. There's a 1-year lag between when you issue the bonds and your first year payment. The total peaks at just around $8 million by year 2031. It will not look exactly like this. Order of magnitude for a potential $53 million project in the other. That order of magnitude, the actual timing of it will vary depending on the city's actual needs for the timing of the facility. If you go to the next slide. This is graphically showing you, so this is looking at city tax levy and tax rate. Tax rate is simply what you as a council approve once a year to divide for tax levy, spread over the value in the community, the tax base. The dark line, top one, as it starts out, is an annual percent change in the property tax levy, a couple of years of 3 years of history, and then actual. The orange line represents the change in the tax rate that is projected. Before adjustments, you might say, what does that mean, Tammy? As part of the plan for the last few years, consistent with prior direction from the council, I'm going to show you a chart or table in a moment. The council asked to look at what would it take to maintain a constant tax rate. So you only levy at an amount equivalent to what the new increase in value is providing. That results in a constant tax rate. Jay, if you go to the next slide. Here, now, again, a bunch of numbers, and I don't want to focus on each of the numbers, but to show you an order of magnitude. So this is projecting out what the city's tax levy would need to be in the general fund as well as the debt service funds to provide revenue in order to have balanced budgets reflecting the assumptions in the plan. Based upon the assumptions for the 330 new housing units and other growth, if you were to say, we want to maintain a constant tax rate over the long term, that shaded area gives you an estimate of the change that would be needed in your plans in order to achieve that. And the big jump happens in 2028 related to the debt on potential new municipal facilities building. What this is showing you is that as you have needs for capital and specifically facility improvements in advance of full development of the city, it is very challenging to have a budget that would have a constant tax rate and be able to pay for those improvements. So And that difference is you would have to adjust, for example, in year 2028 plans by about 4.5 million. That's a very significant number. And again, what is driving that? You might say, I don't understand, Tammy, that's a big number. What's driving that is the debt service on the planned new municipal facility. There's other factors, but the largest is that. Jay, if you can go to the next slide, please. This looks at total city tax levy. So we were talking about debt service. Now we're just switching to total city tax levy. The green bar is the general fund tax levy. General fund plays administration, planning, the police department, etc. So the largest portion for all cities in Minnesota. The green bar is the debt service tax levy. And this is based upon the plan. So this includes the existing debt and the new debt factored in. There is an orange bar equipment fund tax levy. That is not presently included in the plan. It assumes that it would be on, that there would be debt certificates issued every other year in order to help minimize the impact of those levy increases. Jay, if you go to the next slide, please. I want to touch, I've been talking about the general fund and tax levies. The long-term plan, and again, it's about 70 pages, also includes planning, utility study with respect to water and sewer, and how the rates in the plan are achieved. The objective is to ensure that the city, not just in the near term, but in the long term, has cash sufficient to meet those objectives outlined there, which includes some contingency for operating cash sufficient to cover your following year debt service payments, any planned pay-go capital, and there is planned pay-go capital in utility funds, and reserves for future capital plans. The approximate increase in the utility funds averages about 3%. So very modest. The city, at the very beginning of the establishment of municipal utilities in Corcoran, the city was doing long-term financial planning. I would say those long-term financial plans have benefited the city in your ability to manage that increase in the utility fees. Things could change, plans could change, but at least based upon current assumptions, a very modest change. If you go to the next slide, please. One more. This looks at cash balances, and a little bit of a wild slide, but let me explain. The bottom line is the general fund. You would expect that to stay constant and maintain at that level, and that is what is projected. The dash line represents the enterprise funds, and you can see that relates to the timing of when you have major capital improvements and spend down funds. And then the blue line represents the total governmental funds. Council member, you had asked me about investment of cash that the city has. The city does invest cash to the extent that those dollars are not needed for current expenditures. And you can see that projected growth in that total governmental funds and in cash in the plan. Jay, if you go to the next slide, please. So in summary, where we started, I'll end, maintaining that focus on the long-term financial planning. This is not your budget. I've said this maybe 5 times. I'm not giving you a budget presentation. I'm giving you a snapshot, giving current assumptions, what the city's tax levy, tax rate, and utility fees would be over the next decade. Managing those fund balances in compliance with the city's policy. The city does have policies with respect to your fund balance. Continue to review and update those assumptions in the financial plan for growth, which change almost daily, probably. Growth impacts both future city tax levy rate and revenue for the utility funds, and continuing to understand that direct impact on where those the growth impacts the levy and those rates in the funds. Mayor, City Council, again, 70-page report. I just wanted to give you an overview. I'm happy to answer questions, or if you do have specific questions on the report, we can also discuss that.
I have a question, and I don't need to see it, but maybe for next time, we've had you run reports where like we don't add a single house to Corcoran, like different scenarios, and it might seem unusual, but it happened. You know, we've slowed down a little bit on houses, and it cratered in 08. It cratered in a one. So running hypotheticals that kind of give us the worst case scenario is always helpful to me, at least when I do my own financial projections.
We can do that. I see Jay making note.
Anything else?
Thank you, Cam.
Sure.
I have a few. In reading the report, I know you didn't present on this part of it, but the report only identified a 1% interest income on city fund balances. Is that our actual performance over recent history, or what are we actually experiencing with our current guidance around treasury?
It would be more beneficial for me. I can get that information and give you historical data rather than speculate right now. And so I can follow up with that and give you a report that communicates what we've been earning. But it hasn't been much just based on what's actually happening in the economy reality. So it's hard to find good interest rates. And the way that you get higher interest rates is to accept higher risk. And that's not what we want to do with taxpayer dollars.
Well, the charitable gambling fund was getting 4.5%. I would expect that to be a floor in the current environment.
It should be 5 today with, you know, with the approved municipal funds.
But I would say again, Tammy's made this point that this is a projection. It wasn't 5 recently, you know, just within a couple of years ago.
It was.
Yeah,
Wasn't good.
so when she uses a 1% number, that's based on an average for a long range that not too recently was bad, much worse than 5%.
I wouldn't want to bank on getting 5% to make the long-term financial position of the city work. But I think we should be achieving it when it's available to us. On page 16 of the plan, there was a discussion about the potential of paving gravel roads, and I'll reiterate a question that I've asked for a long time. I'd really like to understand the life cycle cost of gravel, especially with the potential exhaustion of local gravel sources and how that compares to pavement, especially pavement with the discovery of the effectiveness of reclamite. So long-term, is it cheaper to have gravel or is it cheaper to have pavement? So we can determine what is the cost benefit to making that kind of a decision.
Just staff for your edification. There are probably 6 folders back there with that very study. So don't replicate the efforts in totality, just put new data in.
Yeah, that would be good if it be pre-populated. There was a reference to a cold storage facility and later a dry storage facility. I'm assuming that's for salts, but I wanted to confirm what that project was expected to include.
I'll let Kevin expound on.
I think there's plans, so storage is a need for the team, for the city staff and operations. So I believe there's some plans that we threw in there for any kind of expansion. We have some ideas, such as an additional facility out at Public Works. We have some facilities around and maybe some swapping expansion. So basically it's a general expansion of storage facilities.
Okay.
I can dig into those exact details, but that's the need. There is a need for that. So it's again, a placeholder. It hasn't been presented on a 1-year CIP to the council yet, but it's right off the screen. So it will be coming in the next round of CIP plan.
Okay. So to echo what Kevin was saying, I want to emphasize 2 things. One, we don't have adequate storage for our equipment. As a result, we're losing out on increased life cycle of our equipment. When it's outside, it's exposed to the elements to a different degree as opposed to being able to store equipment inside. That's less than desirable. So that's part of that long-term planning projection. And then the other thing I just want to emphasize again, the great stewardship that happens here in Corcoran. While I was recently at the ICMA National Conference, and while I was there, I sent out to staff, what's going on? And Kevin sent me a picture of, we needed a water truck. And a water truck costs between $200,000 and $250,000, which would have been projected in the CIP. Instead, our creative staff found the materials used there, and internally created a water truck that we can drop in the back of a dump truck for $15,000. So I just want to, when you talk the stewardship issue, $15,000 versus a $250,000 water truck, these are the type of things that Tammy's talking about, like we make a projection, but we wouldn't have assumed that we could create a water truck for 15 grand.
And just, and elaborating that, it's not just public works, and you know what, like elections has storage needs with all the sophistication that we're struggling with. And police has more equipment now, you know, that needs, you know, more storage, so it's a broad need across the city.
Absolutely. Thank you for the clarification.
Can I add one thing? When you do that CIP, when they, this doesn't involve you, Tammy, but just think about this. When they built the Public Works building, they added up all the pole barns and sheds. Like there was a bunch of stuff over there on Trailhaven. There were two of my neighbors had a bunch of city stuff in their barns. There's just like, they were renting out storage at people's houses. And then they added all that up, and that's what determined the size of Public Works. And so it was only to house what existed in private barns and stuff. And that all happened like the year, 2 years before I got elected, and it didn't go over that well. But so that's why they had to make that facility kind of small. It was nearly adequate at the time. And I'm not you guys will have to sift through that, but the historical context of how they determined the size out there was just based on the square footage of rented space for the stuff the city already had.
That's good context. On the facility piece of it, I don't remember the facility investment being as large in the last plan. I was an advocate of trying to acquire land for future municipal buildings, but I don't see the practicality of making a $50 million building investment. I could see acquiring land for it and then build it down the road when there's greater tax capacity. But I was rather alarmed to see the financial projections at that term.
So actually that number has been in there for some time. I got a little bit of a history lesson on it. It was moved up and it was intended to do exactly how you responded, to pay attention to the fact that something needs to happen. That might not be the number, to Tammy's point. And there's lots of discussions after we do needs assessments and stuff. The land acquisition is projected in 2026. There was actually a placeholder there of $3 million. Whether that will be the appropriate number will be seen, as markets will really determine that and the site will determine that. And then we'll have discussions on what the council wants to do, but that's a placeholder, and that placeholder was actually in the long-term financial plan last year. But it had increased from what, when Brad was here, was a $30 million placeholder. So it has been a large number, but if you look at markets, Chanhassen is building a brand new city hall, different context, different needs. In fact, smaller than what we would need for combining the police department and other things. And it's a pretty hefty ticket. And they already own the land.
But yeah, it'd be part of many discussions, many council meetings and work sessions. And it's not just gonna pop up.
I'm confident that's true.
It is, I agree, it is a giant number.
I noticed fee income is dropping about 70% versus 2022. Why is that? And does it need to do that?
I wasn't expecting that question, so I'm gonna have to come back to you and get you further detail on the fee question. I apologize.
Okay. So I've made this point before. I'll just make it again since we have a rather large audience. I don't want to see us in a position where, due to growth, taxes have to go up. My position has been consistent with the city's long-term philosophy that as the city grows, development should fund whatever increase in services exists. And if we aren't seeing any kind of economies of scale as the city has grown. And we start to see a need for tax rates to go up to meet expectations. To me, that calls into question the development model that we have. And I wouldn't want to see us continue to add housing at 300 units per year if housing is what's getting us into this position. And I really think we need to distill down an understanding of what are our unit economics for a mile of road. What is the cost that we incur for a new resident? What do we incur? And how does that compare to the revenue that those things generate? So that we can align the comp plan and align the zoning code to ensure that as we grow, we're growing more sustainable financially and not less. And so I would propose that we consider to give staff the opportunity to process that and come back to us with that information. We need to relieve them of some of their burden. I would propose that we consider a development moratorium on residential property throughout the city to give staff a year or so to study the unit economics of development for Corcoran in our context, so that we can realign our development model to avoid financial problems down the road.
Gotcha.
Are you making a motion right
I
now?
wouldn't recommend it.
I'm not making a motion because I think we need to come together with the city attorney on what that would look like.
I hear you.
But I want to have that conversation in the context of our financial position with the council.
Could I speak to a couple points regarding that? One, having worked in other cities, and having just been a taxpayer, the reality is that services last year cost more than services this year. And so to expect that taxes, you're going to be able to maintain a flat tax rate when materials, labor, equipment are constantly increasing, that it's very difficult. So you're either going to have to decrease your service expectations because the cost of delivering those services is going up if you don't increase them. And then when we incrementally increase them, it's going to incrementally grow in cost just for the baseline services. And just in the short time that I've been here, it isn't just the baseline services that are being asked to be delivered. There's an expectation of increased services, in particular related to recreational spaces. So the maintenance of trails increases the baseline service costs. I was just a Parks and Recreation director, and that was a big discussion in the community that I just came from. How do you deal with the realities of the impact when you're adding all of these requirements that require more material, more personnel, and more equipment that are above and beyond your baseline services of your utilities and public safety. And so it's an important conversation, and I look forward to that because I agree the model that we have doesn't take into consideration the rate of inflation that we've endured, as well as the realities of increased service expectations. And so we need to clarify service expectations and deal with the reality of inflation.
But generally, you got that point.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah. All good. Okay. Anyone else? I think we're good. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Do you have any associated motion to accept the plan or anything?
Yeah, we do need a motion to accept the financial plan as it was in.
I'll
in
make
there.
that motion.
Second.
Key and Budmar. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Oh, opposed? Like,
Thanks, Candy.
perfect. 5-0.
Thank you, Cam.
I mean,
Not, so did we just vote we just voted generally for the accepting of the presentation, not the context, not all.
It
the
was
stuff?
the plan as it was presented, which, as she stated, this is like a concept. Nothing will happen in that plan until we come forward
You
with
could-
specificity.
You can't, so there
doesn't
could never be
bind
somebody
anything.
saying, you approved.
This doesn't
whatever.
approve a $50 million
Yeah.
building project in 2028,
Just
not at
want
all.
to be clear on that.
This approves that we have
We
put a
got
place
this.
marker in there that at some day we're gonna have a discussion about what council would like to do regarding these long-term plans. And then it comes forward in terms of detailed plans, like Kevin was stating, the CIP, in terms of investment, bonding, if we do that, this is proposed saying that in order to achieve these proposed initiatives, we're gonna have to bond. But that's gonna come forward in detail in terms of what we bond, how we bond, what we're bonding for.
Okay.
Can I just clarify, was there consensus to bring back a plan for like life cycle analysis, or is that a separate conversation?
That was, yeah, got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can do a public hearing for 7A, B, and C at the same time?
I don't think so.
No, I always ask for that.
Worth a shot? Worth the shot?
I have the, I can remember my presentation.
But then we can.
I think I'm gonna ask for a vote without the presentation.
We do have to have
After the
public
public.
hearing.
So typically we do a real quick presentation so that people understand what they're commenting on if they choose to participate in the public hearing.
Okay, let's do the quick presentation, then we'll do the public hearing, then we'll vote.
All right, so for the first item 7A, it's the sleigh bod easement vacation. So applicants getting sleigh bod, the location is 9925 Ebert Road, which is the smaller parcel right now. It is going to be expanded so that basically that west lot line for 9925 is gonna move all the way to the existing lot line for 9945 Ebert Road. That was a final plat that was approved in the consent agenda tonight. And there are previously established drainage utility easements that follow the perimeters previously established with the Hebert addition plat. And so now that we have Slaba addition final plat, we just need to remove basically a DNU easement that would go straight down the middle of what is now going to be 9925 Hebert Road. So there are new easements in place, and the council should open the public hearing, take testimony. And staff recommends approval of resolution 2024-104 approving the vacation.
Perfect. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Going once, going twice.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second, Jerry Camp.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I move to pass the easement vacation.
Second, Nichols.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Second item is the Heather Meadows easement vacation.
Hope,
yeah,
or no, is
no,
it?
this one's Heather Meadows.
Sorry, I
We're-
wrote it down wrong on mine.
We got Hope Meadows next. You are on top of it.
Yep.
Heather Meadows, again, is a final plat for third edition of the final plat that was reviewed on the consent item. We're talking about an existing perimeter drainage utility easement that is surrounding outlot B of Heather Meadows second edition. So that is the bottom parcel highlighted. And that is going to be there's new DNU easements in the third edition final plat. That'll be based on the new perimeter lot lines. So again, this is the area where we will be vacating an easement, and the plat for the third edition has new easements established. So we should open the public hearing, and staff recommends approval of resolution 2024-100 approving the vacation.
Yeah, I will go ahead and open the public hearing for our item 7B.
Motion to close.
Second, Nichols.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to accept easement vacation.
Second, Nichols.
Bottom Nichols.
Bob Nichols, and just for clarification, that's to approve resolution 2024-100.
Yes.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 7C.
All right, the last vacation, this is for the Hope Metals final plat that was approved on September 12th. This is a right-of-way vacation. It's a little different than the drainage and utility easement. Please don't pay attention to that picture. Hope Ministries is located not here. It's actually at the northwest corner of 116 County Road 30. And we will be, I'll just go ahead and go to this page. But we are talking about existing roadway for Oswald Farm Road and Hunter's Ridge that will be vacated because the new plat for Hope Meadows is going to do an improved intersection in this area that will allow for a 90-degree intersection. And that right of way will be dedicated as part of the final plat for Hope Meadows. In the meantime, a new roadway easement will be established over the existing road so that no access is lost while this improvement is happening. And then we'll be able to later vacate that road easement once the intersection improvements are done. So this is the exhibit. And then we should open the public hearing and take testimony. Staff recommends approval of resolution 2024-105, which approves the vacation. And then just as a note, a 4/5 majority vote is required since this is a road vacation, and it's initiated by the city.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second here, Ken.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve. 2024-105.
Second, Nichols.
Autumn and Nichols, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There we go.
Well, that went well. Those three.
Then Q's, just give us a second for the next presentation. You are done. You are all good to go. I'll follow up with you.
Go get them, Miss. Jump right on too, isn't there? Good dude.
Natalie, we're on
Good
7.
family.
7D, he's just getting the Ben Q.
Gotcha.
sorted.
No rush. Just wanted to make sure that we were on the right, council was on the right spot as staff was.
All right, go ahead and press it now for the screen.
Nope. Denied.
Try again. Did you press the green light again?
It's not green here. It's blue. That's part of the problem. You gotta wait for it to turn green.
Is it saved in the file?
Transfer it over.
I made the Ben Q back, so that's loading at least.
Oh, it's the youngest. If he can't do it, I think we're in trouble.
Yeah. So Ole and Sven were ice fishing.
Oh, no.
It's in the planning file for Domino's.
And they had everything, thought they had everything they needed. They got out there on the ice. They got the auger, they got the jig, they got the bucket. And so Ole sits down on the bucket, Sven sits down on his bucket and they're jigging and they hear a voice from up above that says, there are no fish under this ice. So Ole looks up and he says, is that you, God? No, this is the hockey rink manager.
I apologize for the delay, but the next item on tonight's agenda is item 7D, which is a site plan, conditional use permit, and variance request for Domino's. A quick overview of the request. The applicant is requesting approval of the site plan and the CUP to develop and operate a takeout only Domino's pizza restaurant. And due to several site constraints, the applicant is also requesting approval of a variance for the minimum building and parking setbacks, the drive-through lane locations, the sign standards, and minimum parking dimensions. So just background on the site itself, it's the properties of 20115 and 20121 County Road 10, which is the former location of the 1050 Club and the Corcoran Meat Locker. Part of the application is a lot consolidation, but under city code, this can be approved administratively and was done so earlier this summer. The zoning of the property itself is neighborhood commercial or C1, and the zoning of the surrounding parcels is also C1 to the north, east, and south, while the property to the west is zoned public/institutional, which is the city park. Natural characteristics of the site. The 2040 comprehensive plan doesn't identify any significant natural features, but there is a portion of the site that is located within a shoreline overlay district, and that's on the western parcel and portions of the east parcel. So the site itself, the site plan does comply with most of the area requirements for the C1 district. The one area where it does not comply is with the minimum front setbacks, and that's along County Road 10 and County Road 50. That is where it's required 100-foot setback, and they are requesting a 30-foot and a 50-foot setback. The site plan itself, due to the operation of this type of Domino's pizza, there is no customer access since it is a takeout only restaurant. Building materials that are being proposed include coal colored stone, pre-finished lap siding, metal accents, black fiber siding, and vinyl siding around the walk-in cooler. All of these materials do comply with the standards within the city code. And I will just note that during the planning commission meeting, it was discussed what might be alternative to the vinyl siding around the walk-in cooler, and the applicant had noted that in previous projects of theirs, they have worked with communities to make a community themed wrap around that vinyl siding. And so they've provided a example rendering of what it might look like in Corcoran with the Corcoran city logo there. Going into the parking and drive aisle, the minimum number of parking stalls for a restaurant is 8 plus 1 stall for each 200 square feet of dining space. But since this is a takeout only restaurant, that only requires 8 parking stalls. The applicant is proposing 13 parking stalls. These parking stalls are angled at 60 degrees, which have a specific set of dimensional requirements, which these plans do not comply with, but the applicant has included that as part of their variance request, which I'll explain in further detail later in this report. Access would be consolidated onto County Road 50. The current access, there are 2 access points on both county roads, as well as on street parking along County Road 10. This site plan would consolidate all those access points into a single access point off of 50, and then move all parking onto off-street parking. The maximum lighting glare for all lighting fixtures for the property is 1 foot candle as measured from the property line. The applicant has submitted a revised photometric plan since the planning commission meeting, and these plans do comply with this standard. And the maximum height of a freestanding sign is 20 feet, or the height of the roof line, whichever is less. The height of the roof line in this site plan is 20 feet, so they are proposing freestanding light fixtures of 18 feet, so that would comply with this standard as well. Going into landscaping, the landscaping plan was also revised since the planning commission meeting to address some of the screening concerns, particularly on the north corner of the property, facing out towards the Rush Creek Reserve development. So the applicant has submitted revised plans that would add, I think it was 4 additional trees and a number of shrubs around the property itself. So code requires that there are 15 overstory trees. The applicant is proposing 22, and these comply with the standards that no more than 33% can be of the same species. And as far as the shrubs go, this site plan would require 25 shrubs, but they are proposing 35. And 31 of those 35 shrubs would meet the minimum height requirements. The applicant has submitted 2 sign plan options, option 1 and option 2. The first one would be a plan that would aim to comply with the standards of the city code in chapter 84, which allows for a single wall sign that doesn't exceed 10% of the primary building face, as well as 1 freestanding sign with a maximum height of 16 feet and a maximum copy area of 64 feet. The request from the applicant is to have a variance from those standards, and in lieu of a freestanding sign, allow for additional wall signage on the south and east faces of the property. So that's sign plan number 2. And within that plan, the actual size of the wall signs is reduced to, I believe it was 4% of the wall face. So just recapping the analysis of the site plan and the conditional use permit, staff finds that the conditions mentioned within the report, along with the variances, if those were to be granted, would comply with the standards in the code, and staff recommends approval of the site plan and the conditional use permit standards for
a drive-through business, which are detailed further in the staff report. Staff finds that the request does comply with those and recommends approval of the conditional use permit as well. And then going into some of the variance requests, because there are a couple. The first variance request is a variance from the minimum setbacks from County Road 50 and County Road 10. Staff finds that the hardship has been met with these, as the widest point of the property is 198 feet. And the setback from both of those county roads is 100 feet. So you get a bit of an overlap between these setback areas, and you can't really meet that minimum setback. The second variance requested is for the drive-through lane location. City code does not allow for drive-through lanes to be placed within placed between a building and a county road. But due to the shape of the site, there's only a single interior lot line. So that limits the actual ability to place that drive-through away from a public road. And then that creates different nonconformities, as the headlights from the cars in the stacking queue would be shining out into a public right of way, as that's where the access location is. So staff finds that variance hardship has been met as well. The next variance requested is for the wall signage, to allow for additional wall signage on multiple faces of the building in lieu of the freestanding sign. And staff finds that due to the unique shape of the site and the proximity to two county roads, it would be difficult to place a freestanding sign outside of the site visibility triangle without it impacting other portions of the site design. And staff finds that these variance standards have been met, and recommend that if that variance were approved, that no freestanding signs may be allowed on the site in the future.
So just quick, right, as drafted, that would be option 2 of the sign options.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
And then the last variance request is for a variance from the minimum parking dimensions. As stated earlier, the parking dimensions is 60 degrees, but the constraints of the site require the width of the stalls to be 9 feet, the length of the stalls to be 21 feet, and the drive aisle to be 13 feet. So the code itself has larger requirements. The width is 10 1/3 feet, 22-foot length of the stall, and 16-foot drive aisle. And due to the unique shape of the site and trying to squeeze in sufficient parking, staff finds that these standards have been met.
How many slots do they lose by having the width be 9 instead of, or 9 instead of 10, or 10 instead of 9, I guess is my question.
I don't know the exact number. If they were to in theory, they could reduce parking stall in each of the bays and comply with that standard, but looking at some of the similar requirements in surrounding communities for 60-degree parking stalls, a lot of them are 9 feet or less. So we found that was a reasonable request, but if council would prefer that they reduce the number of parking stalls, since they are exceeding the minimum by 5 extra stalls, they could remove those and revise their site plan.
But even with that, they would still need a variance for the length and the drive aisle width.
Clarifying question, on a previous slide, it read no customer access. I thought that this was both a drive-through and a takeout.
Yeah, sorry, I can clarify on that the customers don't actually access into the building. There's a walk-up window.
Okay, thank you.
But there's no actual, only employees are into.
Understood, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Just ignore it.
I
There
have
we
a
go.
similar question that I asked staff over parking space width. My concern is I've often struggled to fit a pizza box into my car because neighboring cars are too close. I would recommend that we have the normal width requirement and just remove one from each of the bays to enable people to access more easily without door dings or contortions, spilling their pizzas onto the ground.
Roof rack.
Roof rack may be a good alternative.
What you, boy, you make it delivery.
Then it comes cold.
Have them delivered.
Or
You can get it
Or
old,
the
you can get
drive-thru.
it there warmer.
And maybe we had, I don't know, I'd be curious as to the applicant, but. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine, because it's hard to park my truck in a regular size. We got a lot of other people with big trucks.
They aren't gonna use
That's
it.
why you use the drive-through.
Why you bring your tractor or your side by side, John.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. I'm just,
Quit trying to park your semi in the normal parking spot.
we just,
I get the same problem with my truck.
are you done yet?
Nope. Gonna keep giving you a hard time.
Okay, keep going. I'd be curious about you're the applicant, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to ask just a real quick question related to that. 13 parking stalls, how many employees in the building at that time?
Could you?
Of manufacturing? And then how many delivery drivers are you expecting? And then how many true parking spots are planned to be customers stopping, walking up and grabbing? You had some great information at the planning commission and
Yeah.
wanted to ask those questions.
So, if you can recap your question, sorry.
Yep, okay. Number of employees, so how many vehicles there, how many drivers? And then how many parking spots are intended for walk up and take out of the window? You went through the point, with the planning commission, you talked about staging cars. Everything is ordered online, nothing is ordered in queue, nothing. If they come and they're early, you park them and you take them out. Usually 3 or 4 cars max would be at the window. I mean, you just go through your thing. You've had a lot of great things, a lot of great expectations. It's been engineered very, very well.
As far as in-store employees, there'll probably be 3 to 4 on the inside. Delivery drivers, during peak hours, we're looking at, 4 to 6, but we're not looking at all those vehicles at the location at
Right.
the same time. They're basically on the road, and that's what our drivers are supposed to be, on the road. So maybe at a maximum 2 drivers at once back at the building. So then we're looking at 6, 7 team members on location. Which, that flexes one way or another depending upon business, we'll just say. So out of that 13 parking stalls, now we're, left to 5 to 6 for customers right now. If we want to reduce that down, I would be very apprehensive on doing that, just because we've all been to restaurants where people in the parking lot's packed, and it kind of defers customers from coming in there. I would rather have one too many parking stalls and make it inviting instead of make it look like someone doesn't want to go there. And when I design all of our sites, traffic is always the number one key thing in my brain, is traffic flow, traffic congestion, traffic safety. We, for lack of better words, we want to make it safe for all of our customers. When it comes to actually customers coming up to our property here, or our business, they, for the most part, my feeling is they're gonna go through the pickup window. They're not necessarily gonna park and walk up to the walk-up window. For the most part, because you have to order your food ahead of time. Don't get me wrong, you can park and you can walk up to the walk-up window and order something, but you're gonna have to wait for 10 minutes. So most people are gonna realize that, hey, if I order ahead of time, I go right to the pickup window and I'm in and out of that property within 3 minutes. And then if you do get that occasional one that does come ahead of time, that's why we do have those additional parking stalls of, if they pull up to that window and their order isn't quite ready, our team members are trained to say, okay, please pull around to these parking stalls and then we will bring it out together.
Thank you. I'm sold.
I'm also stay up here because this is a very long piece, so.
Any other questions for the app?
Just wanted to remind everybody, the vinyl siding around the outside cooler. You had talked about a vinyl wrap.
Yes. And
You put up our logo. It could be just about anything.
Yes, I threw the logo up there just as a place marker, basically. Basically showing you that we can put anything and everything you guys want on there. If you guys wanna design or have a little committee of, 2 or 3 people that we report to. At the end of the day, you guys will approve what we're putting on that cooler. And we will go back and forth with our design team and the city, that group of people, that 2 or 3 people with the city and come down to a final design. And whatever you want, we print and we put right on the building. We've done close to around here, St. Cloud State. We have an outdoor cooler at St. Cloud State. It is wrapped with St. Cloud State Husky stuff. I mean, there's a subtle impact down those logos on it, but for the most part, it is St. Cloud State Huskies. Another one we did in downtown St. Paul, this wasn't outside, but it was inside. We have about a 25-foot long wall that is dedicated to downtown St. Paul. It's basically a big road map or a big map of the downtown of St. Paul, and it picks out specific spots around downtown and has historic data or historic events that happen, like tornado or whatever. Our design team can do whatever you guys want.
And Mr. Mayor, the one thing that I thought of after listening to their presentation at the planning commission is we do coloring contests for night to unite, those kind of things. We can turn this into some type of community involvement.
Well, 100%.
We would have to figure out who the judges are and those kind of things, but something that could be up there for a year or two, associated close to the park, make it a park theme, make it a rural ag theme, those kind of things with everything we're doing for our possible heritage park. That's the stuff that I was thinking about.
Picture of you on.
No, you don't want me up there. It's just that we want good business, not,
But yeah, I mean, being that close to the baseball diamonds, we could do a baseball
Yep.
theme or a kid theme. I mean, for lack of better words, yes, it is a vinyl wrap. It does fade, deteriorate. I mean, you all know that.
they can,
It's like-
they can last a few years.
It's gonna last a few
Yeah.
years. So what we found in best practices on our other sites is basically every 3 years, we're gonna have to figure out on rewrapping this thing. So if you guys wanna have, like you said, a coloring contest and we have, the top 10 winners on that thing every 3 years, whatever. You can do whatever you want. That's all I can say.
Is it drafted or as drafted, it would be, we could determine that later at that point.
How we did with that
We-
approval of the
Are we
variance?
through
It was
this
not
stuff?
a
Are we
condition
good
of
to go?
approval.
Possibly.
I'd like to ask a couple more things.
So no.
We don't have to. do like this.
No.
No, none of that.
I think I'll take a look at the resolution once once he can finish his presentation and I'll get off here. I think we could just add it as a condition of approval for one of the variances.
Okay.
That, they'll do a vinyl wrapping, at the discretion of the city to be replaced occasionally. And maybe we can figure out the details from there.
Sounds good. Thank you.
One question as far as fire suppression and those kind of things, I think our safety group talked about something specific to the oven. Dwight, do you know what I'm talking about? The comments were no sprinkler system, but something related to, is that something we want to give into, or should we be just saying sprinkler system throughout and go from there?
I'm gonna try and pull up the public safety meetings that was quite a while ago, but
Yep.
I would defer to them. They know more about fire suppression than I do, but let's see if I can find it here.
Again, the access to the building is 10 and 50. Obviously, they're not gonna be able to turn around or put fire trucks in there, but again, I'm one that I think a lot of our new buildings and those kind of things, we're asking for sprinkler systems, those kind of things. And while I think the explanation was this building was smaller, those kind of things, there was something, but it was not sprinkler system. It was
Yeah,
a fire
I
system.
recommended
I can add to that.
audio visual alarm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can add to that, by building code and mechanical code, we are required to have an answer system on our ovens. So there is fire protection on. our
Okay.
ovens.
Then I don't need to ask. Okay. Lighting, I think you guys have done a good job, 18-foot standards. and you've adjusted those, it would be nice if all of the lighting could obviously face your property and not blow out into 10 or 50 or out across the park, those kind of things.
And that was required by the photometrics,
Yep.
and we are less than one foot candle at the property line.
Yep. No, that was a concern from one of the neighbors over in M&I Homes, so.
Yeah, and that, I think it was the lady to the northwest,
Yep.
I believe, and that's why we added those additional trees and shrubs.
Yeah.
On the northwest corner to block any headlights or anything going towards those housing, that housing development over there.
Planning commission did a great job talking about all of this stuff. So.
Corinne, actually, I know you're not officially here as a planning commission rep, but do the changes that post planning commission seem to address any issues that came up?
It sounds great, yeah, and he has, been very willing to make adjustments as they've been, reasonable.
Great, appreciate your input. Anything else?
So
No.
maybe there's two more slides of the presentation. I think there's one item that got added to the packet that we probably should go over real quick.
Yeah, so the revised version of the packet includes, there's an item that came up in between the planning commission and tonight's meeting, which was discovery of error in the title, which would indicate that the city owns a portion of the parcel, but the city does not actually own the parcel, has no interest in the parcel. And as such, the applicant has requested that we enter into a quick claim deed and then convey the land back over to the current owner. So that last resolution, 2024-110 would authorize the city administrator to sign the quick claim deed on behalf of the city.
And this was actually at the recommendation of our attorney as he went through the title and found this error. It was when they were trying to go through the property that it was brought to our attention by the county. And so Mr. Thames dug into it, and his proposal was in the best interest of the city as the quitclaim deed.
Gotcha. And then so final recommendations, the planning commission and staff recommend approval of the following. Resolution 2024-108 for the site plan and conditional use permit, 2024-109, which approves the variance request as presented, and 2024-110, which would authorize city administrator Tobin to sign the quitclaim deed. And I just want to note that if there is a motion to deny the variance for the stall width, we would need to have findings of fact for that. So we'd have to table that resolution and bring it back at the next council meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve resolutions 2024-108, 109, and 110.
1 second, you probably want to do a quick adjustment to 109. I need to pull it out to figure out where it needs to go.
Okay.
Because of the vinyl wrapping, but I appreciate your efficiency.
Let's draw that one short for a second.
Screen.
I would second that, Darren Camp.
Hold on,
We
oh,
get
that's the
there.
opposite of what I want to be doing.
Give me 1 second.
You can do a friendly amendment.
After he friendly amends it, I'm all for whatever Jeremy says,
All right.
on this at least.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so we're talking about resolution 2024-109.
Mhm.
I believe it makes the most sense to put it under the building setbacks. We want to add paragraph ABCDF to the effect that,
As a mitigation
Mitig-
to the lack of appropriate setbacks, we will require periodic replacement of a vinyl wrap in collaboration with the city to be replaced on a 3 to 5 year interval.
perfect, yes.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion to make that amendment first and then we can go for the rest of them?
Do you want to do it in 2 steps or in 1 step?
I think we can do it in one step.
Let's
Yeah.
do that in 1 step then.
Okay.
Second,
From Camp. Is everyone clear on what we're voting on? That change that was just highlighted and then as drafted 3 resolutions. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, guys.
You bet.
Everyone good to keep going through? Do you want a 5-minute break?
I'm fine.
Either way.
Going or-
Take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Back at, whatever 5 minutes we have this. Good, perfect. We'll pick back up where we left off on, of course, it actually doesn't say anything, 7E. Yep, the concept plan, the rezoning concept plan.
Jake, he's the bench, please.